subtraction more than just two fractions. Let's get into it with our I will statements.
Remember, your I will statements are your goals for this lesson. They are what we are trying to work on and learn more about throughout our time together today. As we continue on in our lesson, make sure you have your mind focused on these three things and showing them to your teacher. I will read the I will statement first, and then we will read it again a second time together. Make sure you're reading it nice and loudly so I can hear you, but no shouting necessary.
Listen as I read the first one. I will combine fractions with like terms. Say that one with me. I will combine fractions with like terms. Let's look at the next one. I will solve multiple step problems with fractions. Read that one with me. I will solve multiple step problems with fractions. And our last one, listen closely at how I read this. I will identify equivalent fractions. When we read it together, we're not going to say the part in parentheses for now. Read it with me. I will identify equivalent fractions. Nice job, mathematicians. In the parentheses is an example for us to understand that last I will statement a little more. It is showing us that 6/6 is the same as 1 whole. We will see similar equivalent fractions that we want to be able to identify and spot throughout our lesson. Let's get into it now. For our warm-up activity, you'll need your markers and personal whiteboards. Once you have those materials, we are going to practice with subtracting fractions before we get into today's lesson. On your whiteboards, I want you to write the following subtraction problem. 1 minus 1/3 equals blank. We're going to try and figure out what goes in that blank together. When we look at this problem, we can look at our whole number 1 and think, how many thirds are in 1? There are 3 thirds in 1. So let's replace our 1 with 3 thirds. This is the same thing as saying 1 whole. Whenever you have the same numerator and denominator, your fraction is also considered 1 whole. Once we write our fraction like this, it's easier for us to subtract. When subtracting fractions, we keep our denominator the same. So let's write 3 here. Because it's the same in our problem, we keep it the same in our answer. Now we just have to subtract our numerators. 3 minus 1 equals 2. So the answer to our original problem is 2 thirds. I'm going to give us a few more to try. Erase your whiteboards and come back when you're ready for those 3 to try. Just like with our practice one, I gave you subtraction problems that all started with a whole number. Turn your whole number into a fractional unit that matches the fraction that is being subtracted from it. For the first one, you have 1 minus 1/4. Then you'll try and solve 1 minus 3/4. And then finally, try 1 minus 4/5. Work with somebody near you and take about 1 minute to try and solve these problems. Then come back and hit play on the video and I'll show you the answers. The answers on the screen are as followed. For each of the problems, your first step would have been to change your whole number into a fraction that has the same denominator as your other fraction. Since we are changing this into 1 whole, we have to have the same denominator and numerator. Once you did that for each of your problems, you are able to subtract your fractions like normal. Keep your denominators the same and subtract the top problem like normal to get your numerator. Erase your whiteboards and we're going to try something else. On your whiteboards, I want you to write 1 and 1/3 minus 2 thirds. And we're going to do the same thing and try and find the answer to this subtraction problem. When we look at this subtraction sentence, write it on your personal whiteboards if you have not yet. Pause the video if you need time. Let's look at just the fractions here, ignoring the whole number for right now. Can we take 2/3 away from 1/3? Well, no, we can't, because 2 is bigger than 1, so we're not able to subtract that. Let's break apart 1 and 1/3. Instead of having 1 here, let's write it as a fractional unit. So we'll keep 1/3 here. Let's change our 1 into 3/3. Now we have 3/3 and 1/3 minus 2/3. We can take 2/3 away from 3/3. Let's do that now. Let's write 3/3 minus 2/3. We can't forget our 1/3. We'll use that later, though. So let's circle it so we remember. If we take 2/3 away from 3/3, our denominators are both 3's, so we keep it the same. For our numerators, we just need to do 3 minus 2, which is 1. Now we have 1/3 over here, but we still left with our other 1/3. We have to solve using an addition sentence here to show us the final answer in the part of the whole number that remains plus the fractional part of the mixed number. So 1/3 plus whatever was left in our problem, 1/3 equals, our denominators are the same in the addition problem, so we leave it the same in our answer, and we add 1 plus 1, 2. Our final answer would be 2/3. You are going to continue with this following sequence, and I'll give you a few more problems to try. You're going to do the same thing we just did. So if you think you're going to need help remembering to change that whole number into a fraction first, and then how to write the addition problem, keep this on your whiteboard or rewrite it small in the corner so you can reference it. I'm going to erase my whiteboard and show you 3 problems that I want you guys to try. The following problems are ones that I want you to write on your whiteboards and try to solve. Remember, for each of the problems, first take your whole number and turn it into a fractional unit. All of your problems are going to include subtracting a larger number or a larger fraction from the original fraction you're given in the mixed number. Take about a minute to solve these with a partner near you, and then come back to see the answers when you're ready. Here are the following answers. For the first one, 1/4 minus 3/4, you could have had 2/4 or 1/2 as your answer. Give me some jazz fingers, woo, if you had one of those answers. Let's look at our next one. 1 3/10 minus 9/10 equals, you could have had 4/10 or 2/5. If you got that one, stand up and jump once. Nice job, mathematicians. And our last one, 1 3/5 minus 4/5 equals 4/5. If you got that one, give yourself a pat on the back. Nice job, mathematicians. Let's get ready for our lesson today. We are going to do problem A on this sheet together. As you work through these problems, some of them get a bit more trickier. We'll start off at A, and I'll explain how to set up your 3 boxes, and then you will continue to practice as a class before you have time to practice with a partner or independently. For each of your problems, you're given the problem at the top of your paper. Right next to where it says the problem, you can see there's a problem. We are going to write the problem in our top box. So we're going to do 1/8 plus 3/8 plus 4/8. Write that on your papers now. Now, in each of our boxes, we are going to show a different way to solve this problem. Let's start off in our first box. When I start with a math problem, I always like to start by looking if I can just solve from left to right. In this case, let's add the first 2 things we see. We see 1/8 plus 3/8. They both have a common denominator of 8, and since I'm adding it, I know I'm going to keep it the same if I add these two fractions together. Now, if I add 1 plus 3, that would give me 4. So I have 4/8 here, and I need to bring down what I didn't use yet. So we haven't added the other 4/8 to this problem. 4/8 plus 4/8, let's solve that. Our denominators are both 8, so we're going to leave that there. And our numerators are both 4. So we got 8/8 for our first problem. Now we are going to write the same problem again and solve it a second time using a different method. So we're going to add not the first two fractions together. Let's add the second two fractions together. So we have 3/8 plus 4/8. Our denominator stays 8. 3 plus 4, everybody is, shout it out. 7. So now that we've added these two, we need to bring down what we did not use yet. Let's bring down 1/8 plus. Let's add and get our total for this one. When we're adding fractions, they have the same denominator, so we keep it the same. And then for the top, 1 plus 7 equals, everybody, 8. I can tell we're off to a good start because our answers in both of these boxes match. So I can tell that our work, even though we solved it two different ways, is still giving us that same answer. If you get a different answer, you want to go back and review your steps carefully to see if you made a simple math mistake. We still have one more way that we can show this problem. Instead of breaking it down into two individual parts, we are going to rewrite the problem again. And we solved it twice. So we know that this problem is going to equal 8/8. But we can also simplify this now. So 8/8 would also represent 1 whole. So we can show the problem straight across, and we simplified it at the end to show what 8/8 also equals. You are going to continue on working with the following problems. You'll use your boxes to show how to solve the problem 3 different ways. You can solve similar to the 3 different ways here, or you might find another way to solve the problem and still get the correct answer. Make sure you show your work and take your time as you work through each of these adding or subtracting fraction problems. Good luck, and I'll see you soon, mathematicians.